Have you ever watched a promising trade turn into a devastating loss that wiped out weeks or even months of profits? That sickening feeling in your stomach as you watch your account balance plummet, hoping desperately that the market will turn around, only to see it fall even further. If you've been trading for any length of time, I'm willing to bet you've experienced this gut-wrenching scenario more than once. What if I told you that one of history's most legendary traders discovered the solution to this problem nearly a century ago? A solution so powerful yet so simple that it could transform your trading results almost overnight? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden wisdom of Jesse Livermore, arguably the greatest trader who ever lived. A man who made and lost several fortunes throughout his remarkable career, at one point amassing the equivalent of billions in today's dollars. But Livermore's true legacy wasn't his spectacular gains. It was his revolutionary approach to protecting capital through strategic stop-loss placement. Has this ever happened to you? You enter a trade with complete conviction, only to panic and exit at the worst possible moment? Or perhaps you've held on to losing positions far too long, watching helplessly as small, manageable losses snowballed into account-destroying disasters. You're not alone. These psychological traps have ensnared even the most experienced traders. The only thing that saves a man from bankruptcy are his stop-loss orders. These words, spoken by Livermore himself, came at an enormous price. Before developing his systematic approach to risk management, he experienced the devastating consequences of trading without proper protection, losing his entire fortune multiple times. Through these painful experiences, Livermore discovered 5 secret stop-loss rules that would forever change how he approached the markets. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. These aren't the typical stop-loss strategies you've heard before. They're sophisticated yet practical techniques that address both the technical and psychological aspects of trading, approaches that remain astonishingly relevant in today's fast-paced markets. Now, imagine being able to enter every trade with complete confidence, knowing exactly where to place your stops to protect your capital while giving your positions room to breathe. Picture yourself trading with the same disciplined approach that allowed Livermore to profit spectacularly during some of history's most volatile markets, including the infamous crash of 1929, when most investors were financially ruined. The first of these 5 revolutionary stop-loss rules challenges conventional wisdom in a way that might initially make you uncomfortable, but once implemented, the first of these 5 revolutionary stop-loss rules challenges conventional wisdom in a way that might initially make you uncomfortable, but once implemented, it will transform how you approach every trade. If you're serious about mastering your trading psychology like Livermore did, hit that subscribe button too. Join our community of dedicated traders. I share these timeless market insights regularly that you won't find in typical trading courses. But before we can truly grasp Livermore's genius, we need to understand the foundation upon which his entire methodology was built: market structure. You see, Livermore didn't view charts as mere squiggly lines on a screen. He saw them as living, breathing representations of human psychology, a battlefield where fear and greed wage constant war. Through countless hours of meticulous observation, Livermore developed an almost sixth sense for identifying key support and resistance levels, what he called pivot points. These weren't arbitrary lines drawn at round numbers or percentage moves. They were precise psychological battlegrounds where smart money repeatedly showed its hand. What separated Livermore from his contemporaries was his revelation that stop losses should never be placed according to what you can afford to lose. This common mindset trap, "I'll risk 2% on this trade," completely ignores what the market is actually telling you. Instead, Livermore insisted that stops must be placed logically, based on where price action itself suggests your trade idea is wrong. This brings us to his first and perhaps most controversial rule: never average down on losing positions. I can almost hear some of you objecting. But what about dollar cost averaging? What about buying the dip? These popular strategies directly contradict Livermore's wisdom, and the consequences of ignoring his first rule have been the undoing of countless trading accounts. The hidden truth behind averaging down is that it's not a strategy, it's a psychological crutch. When we add to losing positions, we're not making a rational decision based on market evidence. We're making an emotional one based on our unwillingness to accept that our initial analysis might be wrong. Livermore called this dangerous practice the quickest way to the poorhouse, after witnessing it destroy the fortunes of many of his contemporaries. Think about the profound mindset shift this requires. Most traders enter the market with their ego leading the way. They become emotionally attached to their positions, their analysis, their beliefs about where the market should go. But Livermore understood that the market doesn't care about your opinions or desires. It moves according to its own internal logic, and your only path to success lies in aligning yourself with that reality rather than fighting against it. Instead of averaging down, Livermore taught a revolutionary approach. Cut your losses quickly with a predetermined stop loss, preserve your capital, and reassess. This isn't just a trading technique, it's a profound life philosophy. The willingness to acknowledge when you're wrong and change course accordingly is perhaps the most valuable skill on any journey toward mastery. Now, I want to go even deeper into Livermore's second rule, which reveals how he precisely determined where to place these crucial stop-loss orders, a technique so powerful that it allowed him to enter positions with maximum confidence while keeping his risk precisely defined. If you've ever struggled with the emotional challenge of cutting losses, write in the comments, "Protect capital first." This simple mantra transformed Livermore's trading career. Livermore's second rule revolves around what he called pivot points, a concept that would revolutionize how traders understand market structure. These pivot points aren't simply arbitrary levels on a chart. They represent crucial psychological battlegrounds where the market has repeatedly shown its hand. They're the footprints of institutional money, the silent revelations of where the smart money is establishing positions. When Livermore studied charts, he looked for these significant price levels where the market demonstrated clear support or resistance, areas where price had reversed multiple times, or where major breakouts had occurred. These weren't just technical patterns, they were windows into market psychology, revealing the collective mindset of all participants. The brilliance of Livermore's second rule lies in its elegant simplicity. Place your stop losses just beyond these pivot points. Why? Because when price breaks through a pivot point, it often signals a fundamental change in market direction. The underlying narrative has shifted. The market is telling you, with clarity and conviction, that your analysis is likely incorrect. This approach creates a remarkable harmony between risk management and market reality. Rather than setting stops based on what you're willing to lose, you're setting them based on where the market itself suggests your trade idea is invalid. It's a profound shift from ego-driven trading to evidence-based decision-making. But Livermore's journey toward mastery didn't stop there. His third rule introduced a dimension many traders completely overlook: time. In his meticulous observation of market behavior, Livermore discovered a hidden truth that contradicted conventional wisdom. Time is often more important than price. Time is more important than price. When time is up, close the trade. This statement encapsulates one of Livermore's most powerful insights. He understood that markets move in rhythms and cycles. If a position doesn't move in your favor within a reasonable time frame, it's not merely stagnating, it's actively telling you something. Think about the transformation this creates in your trading psychology. Most traders become prisoners of hope, watching their capital sit idle in positions that show no momentum, all while better opportunities pass them by. They fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. I've already invested so much time in this trade. Surely it will turn around eventually. Livermore's time-based stop-loss liberates you from this mental trap by establishing a clear time frame for each trade. To prove itself, you prevent capital from being tied up in positions that lack conviction. You maintain the agility to redirect your resources toward more promising opportunities. You respect the market's message rather than imposing your will upon it. This approach requires a level of self-awareness that transcends typical trading education. It demands that you release your attachment to being right and embrace the fluidity of market movements. The most successful traders aren't those who cling stubbornly to their positions. They're the ones who adapt swiftly to changing conditions. Let's now examine how Livermore's understanding of trading psychology formed the foundation for his next revolutionary stop-loss technique, one that addresses perhaps the greatest challenge all traders face. If you've discovered the importance of timing in your own trading journey, type "time equals opportunity" in the comments below. The real battleground of trading isn't found on charts or in economic data, it's fought in the shadowy landscape of your own mind. Livermore recognized this profound truth long before modern psychology had a name for it. He observed that most traders fail not because of poor strategy, but because of psychological weaknesses that sabotage even the most brilliant analysis. The market is never wrong. Opinions often are, Livermore famously remarked. This simple statement reveals the core psychological challenge all traders face, separating our identity from our market. Opinions. When we become emotionally attached to our analysis, we resist evidence that contradicts it. We ignore warning signs. We move stop losses further away rather than accepting that our initial judgment was flawed. This type of trading wisdom has transformed my own approach to the markets, and I'd love to continue sharing these powerful strategies with you. Hit subscribe now to make sure you don't miss any future videos on these hidden trading principles. This cognitive blind spot represents perhaps the greatest obstacle on the path to trading mastery. Our minds are naturally wired to seek confirmation of our existing beliefs while dismissing contradictory evidence, what psychologists today call confirmation bias. Livermore witnessed this pattern of self-deception destroy countless trading careers, including his own during his early years. His revelation was that successful trading requires a complete mindset transformation. Rather than struggling against our psychological limitations, Livermore developed a framework that bypassed them entirely. His approach removed emotion from the equation by establishing rules that must be followed without exception, regardless of how strong one's conviction might be. Think about the liberation this creates. By committing to predetermined rules for stop-loss placement and management, you're no longer at the mercy of moment-to-moment emotional reactions. You're no longer tempted to give the trade more room when it moves against you, or to exit prematurely when anxiety strikes. The decisions have already been made. All that remains is disciplined execution. This brings us to Livermore's fourth rule, which addresses one of trading's most bittersweet challenges, managing winning positions. His trailing stop technique represents perhaps the most elegant solution to the age-old dilemma. Should I take profits now, or let this winner run? As a position moved favorably, Livermore systematically moved his stop loss to Lock in profits while giving the trade room to develop further. But unlike modern traders who often use arbitrary percentages to trail their stops, Livermore's approach remained firmly grounded in market structure. He moved his stops to significant pivot points that the market itself had established, allowing the trade to breathe while still protecting his accumulated gains. The psychological advantage of this approach is immense. Most traders experience almost as much anxiety with winning positions as they do with losers. They're haunted by memories of watching paper profits evaporate, leading to premature exits that cap potential returns. Livermore's trailing stop methodology creates the mental space to let winners truly blossom into the outsized returns that define exceptional trading careers. Behind the scenes of this technique lies a profound philosophical shift. Rather than trying to predict exactly how far a move will go, an exercise in futility, Livermore let the market itself reveal its intentions. He recognized that his role was not to impose his expectations on the market, but to align himself with its unfolding reality. Let's explore how Livermore applied these principles during some of history's most volatile market conditions, creating case studies that reveal the true power of his approach. If you've experienced the challenge of letting winners run without giving back too much profit, comment "trail with structure" below. Theory becomes most powerful when we can see it applied to real market conditions. Let's look at perhaps the most dramatic example in financial history, the infamous crash of 1929, when most investors were caught completely off guard, watching in horror as their life savings evaporated. Livermore was not only protected, he profited spectacularly. The market had been giving warning signals for months, but most traders were blinded by the euphoria of the roaring 20s bull market. Livermore, however, noticed the divergence between price action and underlying market health. As the market began to wobble in early September 1929, he placed his stops below critical support levels that had formed during recent consolidation patterns. When those levels broke with increasing downside momentum, his stops were triggered automatically. But Livermore didn't merely exit his long positions, he reversed course entirely, establishing short positions with the same disciplined stop-loss methodology. As the market collapsed in October, these positions generated profits that would be worth billions in today's dollars. This historical example reveals the transformational impact of proper stop-loss placement. While others were paralyzed by disbelief or hope that the market would recover, Livermore's predefined rules removed emotional decision-making from the equation. The market spoke, his stops executed, and he aligned himself with the new reality rather than fighting against it. The journey toward trading mastery requires this level of detachment, the ability to separate market reality from our desires or expectations. Livermore's approach wasn't about predicting the crash. It was about responding appropriately when market structure changed, signaling that his previous analysis was no longer valid. Now let's explore Livermore's fifth and perhaps most sophisticated stop-loss rule, the volume-based approach. While price movements tell you what the market is doing, volume reveals the conviction behind those moves, the hidden truth about whether large players are accumulating or distributing positions. Livermore discovered that unusual volume often precedes significant price movements. He paid particular attention to two critical scenarios. First, when a position was moving in his favor but with diminishing volume, he recognized this as a warning sign of potential weakness or exhaustion. Second, when a position moved against him with increasing volume, he saw this as powerful evidence that his analysis might be wrong. In either scenario, Livermore would tighten his stops or exit entirely. He understood that volume represents the footprints of institutional money, the smart money that ultimately drives major market moves. When volume patterns contradicted his position, he respected that message rather than ignoring it. The brilliance of this approach lies in its anticipatory nature. While price-based stops respond after support or resistance has broken, volume analysis often provides early warnings before those critical levels are reached. It's like having a sixth sense for potential market reversals, allowing you to adjust your risk parameters before most traders even realize danger is approaching. This dimensional awareness represents a profound evolution in risk management. Rather than relying on a single indicator or technique, Livermore integrated multiple information streams into a comprehensive stop-loss methodology. Now, let's examine how these 5 rules can work together as an integrated system. If you've noticed how volume often tells the true story behind price movements, type "volume never lies" in the comments section. The true power of Livermore's approach emerges not when these 5 rules are applied individually, but when they're integrated into a comprehensive risk management framework. Livermore recognized that markets are multidimensional, constantly evolving organisms that cannot be mastered through any single technique. His genius lay in synthesizing multiple perspectives into a unified methodology. For any given trade, Livermore would layer his stop-loss strategies in a way that created multiple lines of defense against catastrophic losses. He might use pivot points for initial stop placement, establishing the outer boundary where his analysis would be definitively proven wrong. Simultaneously, he'd apply time-based criteria to evaluate the trade's progress, ensuring his capital wasn't trapped in positions that lacked momentum. As the trade developed favorably, he'd implement his trailing stop technique to protect accumulated profits while still giving the position room to breathe. This orchestration of multiple approaches created a remarkable adaptability. Rather than rigidly applying the same formula to every market condition, Livermore's system evolved with the trade itself. It was responsive to the market's changing character, a living methodology rather than a static set of rules. Think about the paradigm shift this represents. Most trading education focuses on entry techniques, creating the illusion that finding the perfect setup is the key to profitability. Yet Livermore's journey reveals a profound revelation. Masterful exit strategies often make the difference between consistent success and inevitable failure. The most brilliant entry loses its value without proper risk management. While exploring Livermore's methodology, we must also understand the common pitfalls he identified, mistakes that continue to undermine traders a century later. The first and perhaps most prevalent is placing stops too close to entry points, where normal market volatility will trigger them before the intended move can develop. This creates a frustrating cycle of being stopped out of trades that ultimately move in the anticipated direction. Another dangerous mistake is placing stops at obvious round numbers, where many other traders naturally cluster their orders. Livermore observed how institutional traders would often push price temporarily to these levels, specifically to trigger accumulated stops before reversing course. By placing his stops at logical market structure points rather than psychological round numbers, he avoided these common traps. But the most destructive mistake of all, one that Livermore witnessed destroy countless trading careers, is moving stops further away when a trade goes against you. This fatal error transforms limited, predefined risk into potentially unlimited losses. Livermore was adamant on this point. Once set, a stop should never be widened. To do so is to abandon the very discipline that separates professional traders from amateurs. This unwavering commitment represents the essence of Livermore's philosophy. Trading success ultimately isn't about prediction, it's about risk management. Even the most skilled analyst will be wrong a significant percentage of the time. The difference between prosperity and ruin lies not in avoiding mistakes, but in how those inevitable mistakes are managed. Let's explore how Livermore's principles apply to special market situations that challenge even the most seasoned traders. If you've caught yourself moving stops further away when trades go against you, type "discipline is freedom" in the comments to commit to better stop-loss management. Even the most sophisticated stop-loss strategy can be tested during extreme market conditions. Livermore witnessed firsthand the chaos of market crashes, limit moves, and gap openings, situations where liquidity evaporates and conventional order types can lead to catastrophic results. Rather than abandoning his risk management principles during these episodes, he adapted them with remarkable ingenuity. For gap openings, where price jumps significantly above or below the previous close, Livermore recognized the danger of conventional market orders. If you place a market order after a large gap, you're essentially surrendering control over your execution. Price, potentially leading to slippage far beyond your intended risk threshold. The revelation in Livermore's approach was his use of what we might now call mental stops during these volatile periods. Instead of automatically selling at market price when a gap occurred, he would wait for a potential retracement while maintaining an absolute limit on his maximum acceptable loss. This balanced approach allowed him to potentially exit at more favorable prices while still honoring the core principle of defined risk. The key insight was that while the specific technique might adjust to market conditions, the fundamental commitment to capital preservation never wavered. This adaptive mindset represents a crucial milestone on the journey toward trading mastery. Rather than rigidly following a single approach regardless of context, Livermore developed the wisdom to adjust his tactics while maintaining his strategic principles. It's a profound lesson in how flexibility and discipline can coexist within a coherent methodology. While markets have evolved dramatically since Livermore's era, his core principles remain astonishingly relevant for today's traders. The technological landscape has transformed. We now have access to sophisticated platforms, automated order types, and algorithmic execution that would have seemed like science fiction in Livermore's time. Yet, the underlying market dynamics and human psychology remain fundamentally unchanged. Modern traders can implement Livermore's methodologies with unprecedented precision. Automated trailing stops can execute his fourth rule with perfect discipline, removing the emotional challenges of manual adjustment. Algorithm-based scans can identify pivot points and volume anomalies across thousands of instruments simultaneously, expanding the reach of his analytical framework beyond what any individual could monitor manually. Yet amid these technological advances, the essence of Livermore's approach remains unchanged. Understanding market structure and maintaining unwavering discipline. The tools may have evolved, but the fundamental principles, the recognition of support and resistance, the importance of volume confirmation, the psychological discipline to follow predefined rules, retain their transformative power. Perhaps the most profound legacy of Livermore's methodology is this timeless quality. In an industry obsessed with novelty, where trading systems often shine briefly before fading into obsolescence, Livermore's principles have endured for nearly a century. They transcend specific market conditions or instrument types because they're rooted in the unchanging realities of market behavior and human psychology. Let's explore how you can develop your own personalized stop-loss framework based on these enduring principles. If you're finding value in applying these century-old wisdom to today's markets, type "timeless principles" in the comments below. Understanding Livermore's methodology is only the first step on your path to trading transformation. The true challenge and opportunity lies in developing your own personalized stop-loss framework inspired by his timeless principles. This isn't about blindly copying techniques from a century ago. It's about extracting the essence of his wisdom and adapting it to your unique trading personality. Begin by honestly assessing which of Livermore's 5 rules most naturally align with your trading style and time frame. Are you a technical trader who can easily identify pivot points for stop placement? Are you patient enough to implement time-based stops without emotional interference? Do you have the discipline to never average down on losing positions? This self-reflection is crucial. Even the most brilliant methodology fails if it conflicts with your authentic trading personality. Once you've identified your natural alignment, create a systematic implementation plan, the revolutionary approach that separated Livermore from his contemporaries was his commitment to documenting his stop-loss plan for each trade before entry. This pre-commitment strategy bypasses the psychological traps that ensnare most traders during the heat of market action. When emotions run high as prices move against you, having a predetermined exit strategy becomes your psychological anchor. The hidden truth behind trading mastery lies not in finding the perfect strategy, but in consistent execution and refinement. After each trade, document not just the financial outcome, but your adherence to your stop-loss rules. Were you tempted to move stops further away? Did you honor your time-based exits even when your conviction remained strong? This honest self-assessment creates a feedback loop that gradually refines both your methodology and your psychological discipline. What emerges from this deliberate practice is more than just a technical system. It's a trading philosophy that aligns with market realities rather than fighting against them. As your personal framework evolves, you'll likely discover that your best trades aren't necessarily those with the largest percentage gains, but those where you executed your plan with perfect discipline. This brings us to the true legacy of Jesse Livermore. While history often celebrates his spectacular market calls and enormous profits, his most enduring contribution wasn't about making money, it was about preserving capital through systematic risk management. Livermore understood that spectacular gains mean nothing if they're eventually surrendered through poor discipline. The game of speculation isn't all mathematics or set rules, Livermore famously observed. It's self-control, personal discipline and judgment. This profound insight reveals the journey that awaits beyond mere technical knowledge. By mastering his 5 stop-loss rules, you gain far more than just protection from catastrophic losses. You develop the psychological foundation that separates professional traders from perpetual amateurs. Think of these principles not as mere techniques, but as gateways to a deeper relationship with the markets. Each rule addresses a specific psychological vulnerability that undermines trading performance. The temptation to average down, the impatience with time-based development, the reluctance to trail stops effectively. If you're committed to implementing a structured stop-loss framework in your trading, comment "Discipline creates freedom" below. As we bring our exploration of Jesse Livermore's stop-loss methodology to a close, I'm curious, which of these 5 rules resonated most deeply with you? Was it his unwavering stance against averaging down, his pivot point approach, or perhaps his sophisticated volume analysis? The journey we've taken together through Livermore's principles isn't just about historical trading wisdom. It's about transforming your relationship with risk and cultivating the psychological discipline that defines market masters. These lessons have survived for nearly a century, not because they're complex or mysterious, but because they address the timeless challenges all traders face. If you found value in these insights, consider becoming part of our community by subscribing. Each week we delve into these hidden dimensions of trading psychology and technical mastery that separate consistent professionals from struggling amateurs. The path to trading transformation is one best walked together, learning from both historical wisdom and each other's experiences. I'd love to know you made it all the way through this deep dive into Livermore's methodology. Drop a comment saying, "Market wisdom endures," so I can personally thank you for joining me on this journey. And if these insights have sparked something valuable for your trading approach, that like button is the simplest way to help other traders discover these principles. Speaking of trading psychology, I've created a companion video exploring Livermore's 3 psychological rules for entering trades with maximum conviction. It builds perfectly on the stop-loss foundation we've established today. Click right here, and let's continue exploring how these century-old insights can transform your modern trading results. Until next time, trade with structure, manage risk with discipline, and let the market reveal its intentions rather than imposing your expectations upon it.